Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Israeli-born guitarist Rotem Sivan on the 2024 CD called Dream Louder. We caught up with him about this brand new album that is a musical love letter to his wife and her immediate family. He has been turning heads since arriving in New York City, lauded for his energy, ideas, and virtuosic chops. He has racked up an impressive list of recordings as a leader. We get into a whole lot. Enjoy.
Hey, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today.
Of course, my pleasure.
So before we get into Dream Louder, I want to know, the last 3.5 years was quite tumultuous for us all, especially for the musician community. How did you survive the pandemic, and how has it changed you now that, we've come out of it, you got a new album? How's it going?
Yeah, I think the pandemic was harsh for everybody in a lot of ways, and I feel people that were dealing with public appearances like musicians and of course different professions were hit even emotionally harder because they couldn't do what they do. And I think a lot of people recognize their work as their, themselves in a way. So that was a strong hit. I think the pandemic made me, and I think a lot of people, find solutions and try and figure out things in different ways, whether it's emotionally or work or other things. It was kind of like an interesting reset button that also allowed to rethink what we want to do, and what is needed for us as people. So although it was extremely harsh and of course catastrophic in a lot of ways, it also led to other paths that maybe would not have been found otherwise, because things stopped, and we had to figure it out. So I guess for me, it was no shows, none of that. And then I basically tried to say, okay, it's a time for me to figure out and try to learn music and to develop myself as a person and, practice things and just dive deeper into, creation. So that's what I try to do. I'm very grateful to the fact that we can play shows and communicate and meet people. That was, of course, for all of us, a very necessary thing that happened. So, I think like playing shows and playing tours and all these things happen are extremely exciting, even more than ever, if you will. And I feel like also audiences are a little bit more kind of like coming out to shows and supporting. Yeah. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, no, it did. Absolutely answered it. Now, I'm curious, for Dream Louder, the newest album, what were the kind of the artistic forces that went in to create this project?
Yeah, so the album is sort of like, if you will, an open love letter to my wife and her family. So I got married about 1.5 years ago, about 1.5 years ago, and I got a chance to meet and connect for the last couple of years, or more than a couple of years, with her family, which is just a bunch of great people. So I started writing some music for these, for my wife and her mom and her dad and her sister, etc. So and the husband of her sister, and just people I got a chance to hang and still do, and the album was this interesting process of writing songs for specific people, and also it was very rewarding to play some shows in Europe and have them here. Like, for example, Lauded, Luke, just a great dude, and it's just really nice to play his song and to see him shine. It's a great feeling. And I think the idea of us as artists, as musicians, we're able to kind of, project this beam of light on something, a person, an idea, a concept. And if it's a person, somebody kind of sees himself through that prisma of life. And I think that brings a lot of happiness. So this is a part of this album, Dream Louder.
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
Well, there are kind of two things. So the title of the album is called Dream Louder, and one of the things that I kind of try to remind myself is the idea of sort of dreaming our dreams and allowing ourselves to dream and to dream, basically dreaming louder, dreaming vividly, and sort of like expressing the things that we want. And I think that process is important. There's this like Dizzy Gillespie was asked, you know, if he kind of hears how is he hearing the line that he's playing, and he was kind of basically saying that he hears it super loud. It's very, you know, high volume, if you will. It's like kind of like, it's not kind of like it's it's like very, very present, and it's just an example. But the idea for me of expressing what it is that we want and dream in words is really important. The other side of this album, where it's all connected, it's human interaction. It's seeing the beauty and the love of people around us, and trying to recognize it. You know, you hang with a friend, you hang with your, you know, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever it is, and you can see the beauty in it, and you can kind of like say like, oh, this is really cool. Like kind of like be thankful, not in an annoying kind of like I'm thankful, but not that it's annoying, but just like, you know, just like being like, wow, I'm recognizing the beauty and the light in this situation, and it's awesome. And by recognizing and by saying like, wow, this is awesome, you even feel it more in a way. So yeah, hope that makes sense.
Right on. So how did this journey begin for you? How did you get into music, and more specifically, how did jazz become your focus?
Yeah, so for me, music was always something that I was really curious about. I remember being a kid, and I kind of always wanted to play guitar. So I asked my parents many times, but they said I'm too small. And eventually, when I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10, I started playing guitar. And I remember feeling, it wasn't serious, I just, you know, play some chords and songs. But I remember feeling that idea of like these sounds and music felt like this magical world that I have no idea of what's going on there. And I was really always, and still I am, very curious to understand, truly to see what is happening there and to be a part of it. So there's this magical world that I'm seeing and I'm not a part of, and I want to be a part of. And this is like sort of like maybe one of the things that motivates me to learn and to keep growing and to practice every day and to explore music. This idea of like it's a universe. There's no ending to discovery and creation. So yeah, that is in general for music. And with jazz specifically, I remember just like my teacher, or actually a friend of my brother's, gave me a couple of CDs when I started playing guitar. And he, gave me like this Wes Montgomery, this John Scofield, this Pat Metheny album, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't understand what's going on there, but I thought it's really cool, being like, I don't know, 12 or something. And then I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I started listening more and trying to figure it out little by little, But that was the beginning of the process, I'd say.
So what was the first live jazz show that you ever saw that really blew you away?
I think it's not a jazz show, but I remember seeing like a Michael Jackson show with my dad. And I remember the amount of energy that was in the air, in the audience. And I was just a kid, but I remember that as a really strong, it had a strong effect, just how mesmerized all the people were and everybody. I mean, it was a huge kind of like, place. But it was amazing to see that energy, and I really liked that energy of the music. I think I saw Pat Metheny actually in Israel, and I saw also David again. They were both kind of stopping by, I guess, on tour in Israel one time, and I think like just the amount of freedom that these guys possess and can articulate was just beyond. And I remember just being kind of shocked. Like I remember there was one show that really great. was playing, and at the end, he ended the line on the guitar, and he was ending the line by tuning the string down, but so fast that he was basically kind of playing the line on the tuning of the string, but it was the line. It was just incredible, you know? Just like wow, just beyond what you imagine. Yeah, it was just insane. It was really playing a line and finishing the line, but playing, again, pitches, like specific pitches on the string while tuning it back and forth in time. I was just like, what? It was just so beautiful, you know, the creativity, and of course, and hearing Pat as well, it's amazing. And yeah, so these two shows were very important for me. Yeah.
Well, I got very personal pieces that will back up what you just said. I actually live specifically in the hometown here in Kansas City. I live in Lee Summit. That's where Pat Metheny's from. That's where he grew up.
Amazing.
And also, when I was a kid, my dad was a car salesman, and he'd always get in these raffles with all the other salesmen. And one year in 1985, he won tickets to Arrowhead Stadium to see Michael Jackson with the Jackson 5 on the Victory Tour. And that blew my mind, because when that glove came up out of the ground and it was sparkling all over the place, it was like the closest I'll get to a Beatles show. It was just pandemonium.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it was wild. So, you know, you've obviously dedicated your life to this world of making music and jazz. What is it that you look forward to the most or like the most about being a professional musician?
Wow. Yeah. Great question. I think the answer has a few levels to it. I think one is I like learning things. So, you know, I really like the idea of, you know, waking up and playing some piano and learning some stuff, and then transcribing some stuff on guitar and learning. So I guess like the idea of learning and continuing to learn and I guess see the progress of things that I care about, whether it's, you know, whatever, playing some upright bass or you know, writing songs in weird odd meters and getting really comfortable with it. So all these things are things that are interesting for me, and I think that's the process of like just growing. I think on a professional level, I think it's just like creating things that I love, and in hope that it will also resonate with some people, you know. So creating, for example, this album, this project that I put a lot of energy and love in, and hopefully like seeing, you know, people affected by it. It doesn't need to be anything specific, just, you know, like listening and you know, resonating with it. I guess that's something that I'm hoping for. And thirdly, I guess like bringing the music out. So like, you know, we're playing actually a show in New York tomorrow, an album release show on the 19th. That is in New Blue. And then we have a couple of tours. We're playing a tour in Mexico in April at Polanco Jazz Festival and a few clubs in Mexico City and around. And then a week or 10 days in Europe, in London, Paris, Berlin, all around. And, you know, doing these kind of actions, actually like playing with people, for people, is very meaningful for me. So that's something I love doing. And I'm hopeful that that's something that I can, you know, keep on doing and progress with that.
You know, the one thing, you're from Israel, is that, you know, the fact that, you know, America kind of in the beginning kind of incubated this music that came from Africa, and it's spread so far. It's gone to every corner of the globe. Very simply put, why do you love jazz?
I love the ability to connect with people and to create something that is truthful. And I also like the sort of like the love that this group of people, the audience and creators, have toward the idea of dealing with something very, very positive and very very human-like. You know, this is a conversation. We're basically communicating and practicing, or I would put in phrases better, we're practicing in communicating better, in listening better, right? So as a musician, one of your strongest suit is how well can you process information and listen. listening to the bass, listening to the drums, listening to the band, listening to what is happening. And that is translated at the end of the day to how you're acting in your life, right? How you're listening to your friends or your wife or your kids or whatever it is. This is a communication. It's a two-way street, and sometimes more than two-way. But this idea of paying attention to listening and to being open to communication, I think, is really important for us as humans. So I love that in music, and specifically in this creative space of jazz.
So speaking of this community of jazz, I'm curious, when the pandemic was really kind of going on, people were leaving big cities. There was a fear that, the younger players may not go to school and all of those things. But what are you seeing as far as the strength of the jazz community here in 2024? How strong do you see it as right now, kind of coming out of this pandemic and, with new albums and activity picking back up?
Yeah, I feel creators and audience as well are hungry for action. I feel like people want to create and want to do even more. So I feel like there is just like this strong urge of creating things and also appreciating our ability to, connect. If it was, remember when it was like, you're not going to hug anybody for next year. It's like, what? It's like, so now, you can say hi and you can play sessions and record and tour and meet people. And so I think this idea of connecting is super strong, and I think we're all grateful for that. And we want to do it. I think, again, both audience and creators.
So let's say a time machine pulls up and you could go back in time and see any jazz show with your own eyes. Where are you going to go? Who would you love to see?
Bill Evans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few, of course, I really want to see Coltrane. I really want to see Bill Evans. I really want to see Ahmed Jamal. There are some, bands. I would really want to see Wes, live. It's like the heroes, There's just a bunch of these bands and heroes that are just like, wow, I'm sure being there is something else. I heard stories, talk to people that so it's even interesting, talking with people that, saw Bill Evans a lot or Coltrane, and they're saying you hear the recording and it sounds nice, but when you're in the room, the hairs on your head, it's all spiked, you're so emotional. It's it affects your physical body. The sound is so big and so strong. And of course, we hear the recording, it's amazing, but they say the live show, it's wow, just the sound of the saxophone, or the sound. I remember a teacher at New School that we talked about Bill Evans, she was saying, the sound he got from the piano is so big, and she's an amazing piano player. And it's just it's interesting to talk about this, unquantized assets of these these great artists, and I wish I could see that. Of course, I see other amazing artists these days, but it's these are heroes. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very pivotal and very necessary for people to catch this art form live. I've seen many shows that, from musicians that I've listened to their albums for a long, long time, but when I finally saw them live, it was wild, It definitely needs to be done. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you run the show. You're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
What do you mean? I don't understand the question completely.
So it's everyone around you, you're cast in a certain light, whether your friends see you a certain way or your family sees you a certain way or fans that merely listen to your music perceive you a certain way. But ultimately, you're running the id. You're running the show. What is your perception of who you are and what you're projecting to the world?
Wow. I wish I knew. This is the million dollar question. Yeah, I mean, like, if you know who you are and what you want, what moves you, that's the ultimate search. Like, who are you? Yeah, if I had the answer, I would be happy to share.
That's a good answer. Hey, if anyone wants to pick up the brand new album, learn about any live shows that might be coming up for you, what's the best way for them to do that?
It's all streamable on Spotify or whatever platform you'd like to use. You can go to my website at rotemsivan.com and check out more shows. And please keep in touch. Instagram, YouTube, all these are available for communication as well.
Wonderful. Rotem, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for talking about the album and your life and music. I really appreciate it. Have a great 2024.
Thank you. Likewise. Happy to be here.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in Israel, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.